chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from West St. Paul Studios, it's time for MinneZona Sports Live with DJ Matty C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back, yes, episode 227, fresh off the Super Bowl, our 5th annual Super Bowl special. Without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Callahan, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., 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 and all the way in St. Cloud, Minnesota, and Granite Studios, Paul Voldy, Shield. What is going on there, Shield?
Well, it kind of pains me a little bit having to wear the Eagles garb, but at least it looks good. I'll say that much. Eagles, Super Bowl champions. What a game. What a game. What a time to be alive at this point. And I know that we're going to talk about it a lot here very quickly about it. But, man, this has just been a very crazy week in a world that we live in now where, once again, Philly is Super Bowl champions.
You know, I didn't say this when we made our picks, but I will say this right now. I didn't expect it to be like that. I mean, it got to a point where I was like, dang, they're kicking their ass. I mean, legitimately, they are beating them to a pulp.
Crazy.
And it's, again, we can talk about as much as we want with the fans and them being jackasses and everything like that. 95% of them, obviously. 5% would be my family that lives there, over there. But, again, it was an insane game. Was it boring? A little bit. But, again, I mean, domination. It was domination. So, if you haven't guessed yet, that is what we're starting off with tonight. Tater Tot Hot Take. And then the big news for the Minnesota Timberwolves, A-Rod, marclore win their arbitration against the evil Glentaylor. Yes. I wouldn't say evil. I just say he's just not a smart guy.
Stuck in his ways.
Yeah, stuck in his ways. Didn't want to give it up. Now he's forced to give it up. So, Too bad. Too bad, so sad, Glenn. We'll talk about that tonight for ARA. And then Voldy is going to go more in depth on what the new owners of the Wolves should do as for virtues tonight as we head to the Temple of Wisdom. And then we've got a stacked ARA. We got the Twins signing another person. Holy crap, this is actually happening. He's from France. Just kidding, maybe not. But the Four Nations face-off underway. All the nations, they're ready to roll. There's big games, a lot of wild players playing. So we'll talk about that. And, apparently Kellenmoore will be the Aints head coach. Hopefully he doesn't learn from his predecessors and how bad they were these past few seasons, which I enjoyed. But we'll see. Then Aaronrodgers unlikely to return to those New York Jets. I think it's pretty much set in stone now, but we'll talk about that as well. And then Ohio State adding Mattpatricia as D coordinator, and he's back. Him, Belichick, they're both in college football right now, which is insane. So we will talk about that as well. And Voldy, we got to reveal our winner of the Super Bowl special, our pick'em / score predictions and everything like that. Look, there weren't a lot of people that were close, which again, it's not your fault. I mean, don't get me wrong, zoners. It's none of your fault for that because, again, we didn't expect it to be that way either. So the closest score It was. I had to do some math, obviously, but and I'm not very good. But trust me, I think this should suffice. Our winner is John Moser. Yes, Eric
friend of the
Moser,
program.
friend of the program, and obviously Eric Moser. That's his son, so it's perfect. He predicted 33-28. And let's just say that's probably the closest that we got. Other people were also close, but no one predicted the Chiefs would score as they didn't think they'd score 22. Nobody thought they'd score 22.
Nobody
as well.
knew.
So, he will be getting the MinneZona drawstring bag, which
Yes,
you
sir.
probably put it to good use too. So. Yeah, that'll do it for Super Bowl special stuff. So, Voldy, I say we get into some Tater Tot Hot Take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
All right, it is time for some Tater Tot Hot Take. And obviously, we started off the show with the Eagles and the Chiefs, Super Bowl 59. And let's just say the score is probably a little misleading. I assume that most of you watched the Super Bowl. If you didn't, if you're watching the Puppy Bowl, I mean, you do what you will.
Hey,
whatever.
hey! Shout out though, a dog from Minnesota won the Puppy Bowl.
That's right. We'll give claps out there, repping Minnesota. No disrespect, obviously.
All the disrespect.
Yeah, all the disrespect. So this game was a beatdown, I would say. The Eagles just showed everyone that, hey, you can talk all the crap you want about us and how we've gone about our season. I think ever since that Cleveland game, they've kind of bounced back. Saquon has been out of this world. He didn't have the biggest game, but the guys that came through, Jalen Hurts, their offensive line, obviously, and their wide receivers, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown being one of them as well. So there was a lot of offense and a lot of defense. I mean, Cooper DeJean from Iowa, pick six. Zach Bond was great as well. I had a nice interception as well. That D-line was getting after it. And it was they conquered the dynasty that was maybe they can get back to it, but they conquered the Chiefs. They conquered the Swifties as well. So, with all of that being said, we'll look at some stats and whatnot. But Voldy, what are your thoughts on the game itself? Anything to add with what I just said? What do you got?
I mean, let's really all start with as soon as kickoff happened. Of course, the Super Bowl happens to be a time of year where major television networks really delve out new score graphics and the score bugs for the year. And nothing pisses me off more when they do that at the Super Bowl. We've gotten used to how the graphics of the game look throughout the whole season. Oh, let's go ahead and roll out something completely different and new. That usually gets me upset. Now what pissed me off even more about this year, just as generic and plain looking Fox's score bug was this, it almost looked like something that we conjured up back in college, Matt. I mean, it was just completely bare graphic, just poor design overall. Yeah. It was ugly. It was ugly. A lot of people were commenting on that. Matt Fowler and I were actually texting throughout the game about not only the game itself, but just not even the start of the broadcast too with that new score bug. That just was ugly. But Kansas City was just unable to get anything going right away and just Patrick Mahomes flashback to Super Bowl 5 years ago. He was just running for his life. I mean, just constant pressure from the D line of the Eagles, left, right, and center. I mean, he was just backwards, forwards, and nothing could get going. And when he was able to find something down the field, guys couldn't catch the ball. I mean, if DeAndre Hopkins is able to make that catch just before halftime, I don't say the Chiefs win it. I feel at that point, Hopkins and the Chiefs, they make a serious go at it. I feel like it would have been a lot closer. You get into field goal range. You're only down at that point. I mean, it would have been, I don't know. I don't know if it was 24-0 at that point, but it was definitely a couple score lead there for the Eagles heading into halftime. But at least get points going into halftime to at least build something off of it. You get the ball in the halftime locker room, go from that point on. But it definitely would have made a huge difference. Overall, I mean, it was just not pretty overall. I mean, Pacheco couldn't get going. Kareem Hunt couldn't get going. Patrick Mahomes was running for his life. Just very out of sync. And I feel like with the amount of games that they've played the last 3-4 seasons, I felt like it really caught up with them. They were just completely worn down. That offensive line was as patchwork as it has gotten here this season. And same thing that happened back in the Super Bowl against Tampa. Offensive line was sketchy at best. Same thing with this. And now it came back to hurt them. And that's what ultimately, really did away with Kansas City in the end of the three-peat.
Well, it came down to this, I feel like. When you're putting only 23 yards, I think it was 23, 25, whatever it was, 23 yards of total offense, I think before the half, or pretty damn close to, there's a problem. You were down. They were down 24-0 at half, and when they tried to run the ball, Voldy, instead of Mahomes running for his life, I'm gonna give you a couple stats here. Kareem Hunt had 3 carries.
Wow.
Samaje, I think it's Samaje Perine, only had 1 carry.
Yep.
Isaiah Pacheco, 3.
Yeah.
They couldn't run either. I mean, they couldn't do anything. And Jalen Carter, that front 7 that they have, Josh Sweat, Oren Burks, Milton Williams, who has been rumored, Vikings could maybe even take a look. You never know. In free agency, but they could re-sign him. Who knows? But again, this came down to defense. They sacked Mahomes. The Eagles sacked Mahomes 6 times.
6 times.
And, Joe Thuney, he's played every position on the line for the Chiefs. Yep. And he just could not keep up with the pass rush. He got backed into Mahomes a couple times. Juwan Taylor, I'm still surprised he's got a job with the Chiefs. He's something else. But it just, it was bad. And the Eagles made them look like they were, like they were the worst team in the league, like they were the Tennessee Titans or something like that in that first half. And then they get going, but it's like, it's a throwaway touchdown to what's-his-face, Xavier Worthy. He had 8 receptions for 157 yards. 2 touchdowns, which is insane. And after that, it was Travis Kelce, 4 receptions, 39 yards. And let me tell you, I'm very, I get that people were saying, hey, he showed his age and, things like that and whatnot. But you know what I saw? I saw a lack of effort. I really did. And I hate to put it that way, but I'm telling you, if you are going out into the Super Bowl like this and, acting the way you were, he dropped a couple footballs, I will say, and he just did not look like he was interested at all. And he was moping on the sideline. He wasn't really, there was nobody on that team that was trying to get them to be rejuvenated. We all expected them to come back. I was like, when they got to half 24-0, I'm like, they're not going down like this. this. There's no way.
No.
They folded. They folded. And I hate to say it, and, it's no shade, but, I mean, Mahomes looked like Sam Darnold out there that first few quarters. I mean, the playoff Sam Darnold, I will say. Playoff Sam Darnold. There's a difference. But he looked awful. It was the worst game I think I've ever seen him play. And it was the O-line. Everything that went wrong did go wrong for the Kansas City Chiefs. But props out to the Eagles, came prepared. I mean, Saquon had 25 carries for only 57 yards.
Yeah.
He was pretty much a non-factor. I mean, he was a threat. They were keying in, making sure to stop him.
Yep.
He had a couple catches. That one catch he had was sweet, which was cool. But they didn't really have to use these guys that much because they were dominating. So
defense was making
insane.
plays. I mean, Cooper DeJean had that pick six there, which was pretty much the kiss of death. I mean, the fact that Jahan Dotson, probably the fourth or fifth best receiver on the Eagles, had more offensive yards in the first half than the whole Kansas City Chiefs team, kind of a bad sign for Kansas City at that point. Jalen Hurts, I mean, he was very mobile. I mean, 11 carries, 72 yards, and a TUD as well there, to really move things around. Very efficient with the football. Couple touchdowns, obviously an interception. He was going for it there early in the first half. Got sacked a couple of times, but, that's just him trying to extend plays. But the defense, I mean, the defense was just rolling, and they were just making plays.
Defense wins championships.
Winning the turnover battle, pressuring the quarterback. Those are things that we talked about with the Eagles. And I'm very happy that we took the over on the number of sacks for the Eagles. I just wish that Jalen Carter would have gotten the 2.5 like I said he was going to, as opposed to Josh Sweat getting 2.5. But, we kind of knew that the Eagles defense was definitely going to get after it, especially with that offensive line for Kansas City. You just thought maybe the Chiefs' clutch factor was going to kick in at some point, especially when they got down. But like I said, I just feel like at this point now, playing an extra, almost a full season the last 4 or 5 years with Kansas City, going through the playoffs, and now 4 Super Bowls or 5 Super Bowls, and looking for their third in a row. I feel like it caught up with them at this point, and unfortunately, that's how it. That usually is how it. Unfortunately, ends for them is with this well-decided loss, and the score kind of not indicative of how dominant this defense was, but at least getting a touchdown there at the end. DeAndre Hopkins gets a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Probably one of the last chances for him in the league before ultimately he has to retire or something, but at least he can say he scored in the Super Bowl. So
we talked about, and other people as well talked about how the refs were going to factor into this game. Well, they didn't at all. Zero, zilch, which I almost feel like, and if you want to get really dive into a conspiracy here, but, I bet some people were like, oh, so now they don't, now they're not rooting for the Chiefs and everything
They heard all the noise be like, Kansas City gets all the calls, and the refs are like, oh, yeah? Bet. Watch this.
Yep. Yeah,
every
so if
time
you want
Kansas City started to get something going, be like, boop, nope. Illegal formation, nope. Offensive pass interference, nope. Intentional grounding.
The fact is the Chiefs just did it to themselves. And so, to be completely honest, it's just DeAndre Hopkins, dropping the ball and everything like that, like you said before half, and there was a lot that went wrong for them. So, another person I feel like we need to shout out is Vic Fangio. I mean, this is his first year D coordinator for the Eagles. Obviously, he's been around the block. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. But the way that he's constructed it, the way that he, has in the offseason, DeJean, obviously through the draft, Quinyon Mitchell was another big get as well. And again, they're drafting, Howie Roseman drafting all these studs. Carter, Davis. This is a stacked team. I'm just glad they were able to put it all together before I mean, this was going to take a nosedive if they didn't win because if they didn't win that or the rest of the season, everyone was saying Sirianni's got to go. You know, they're going to fold. The Eagles are going to fold. No, they never did. And, you know, you got to give credit where credit's due there and whatnot for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I believe the parade is Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because they're supposed to get snow on Thursday, apparently, so that's why they pushed it to Friday. So
okay. So we'll see how that goes. Probably a lot of drunk people, all that fun stuff. Just try not to burn down your city, please, Philly fans. I mean,
please don't eat horse manure. Please don't
that's
climb
disgusting.
Poles.
Yeah, just be happy you won. You don't need
them
to
Johns
take
need to
shots.
figure it out. Them Johns need to relax.
Yep, that's right.
I hate.
Go ahead.
Like, there are some good Philadelphia fans out there. I will give them that. But it's all those dirt bags out there that you see on social media that are, you know, berating women, throwing batteries at players, throwing snowballs at Santa Claus. I mean, it's just, it's ridiculous.
I don't get how, and especially setting off fireworks in the middle of massive people. I mean, you're going to hurt somebody. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
John need to figure it out.
Yeah. So anyway, let's talk about something outside of just the whole game and everything like that. We had, we obviously had the commercial or the ads. I mean, they're kind of underwhelming this year.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, there were some good ones. I mean, there were some good ones. There were some previews of callbacks. Yeah.
There's a good amount of callbacks on the Super Bowl ads.
Yeah, so there were some good ones. But I think the big news, I feel like, was that when they showed Taylor Swift up on the Jumbotron there, and people were booing, which I assume were mostly Eagles fans.
Yeah, a very pro-Philly crowd in New Orleans this year, which is very, very interesting.
Voldy, I took the under on how many times that they would show Taylor Swift. It was like one.
I was going to say very – well, it's just because Kansas City was
whatever it
struggling.
was.
Yeah. Kansas City, if they started picking things up, probably would have showed Taylor a few times.
Right. And you know what the weird thing is that, like, anytime any other team scores, they don't show her. It's like, at least keep, consistent with your brand here. I mean, good Lord. We don't want to see Taylor said everything like that. Well, then why don't you show someone else's wife being happy or something like that, I mean, for the Eagles, be fair with that. So, but yeah, I talked about the ads, but the halftime show, Kendrick Lamar, obviously there were some, songs that were very good and things like that, but what are your thoughts on the halftime show? What do you think?
A lot of people are kind of hating on Kendrick Lamar and look, I always come down to the fact that the Super Bowl halftime show, yes, it is a spectacle, but you try to pack it as much as you can within, 15 minutes or something like that. You try to encompass everything about this artist, their hits, their songs or whatever, and try to pack it all into a football field that takes about 4 or 5 minutes of setup. Then the concert happens, and then tear it all down before the kickoff of the second half. That's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that could go wrong very quickly. And I understand why some people say, oh, it's not as good as him being in concert. Yeah, because he's got time to set up. There's sound check. There's all these other things that he can at least get well put together. With the Super Bowl, it's go, go, go. We've got things to do. We've got spots to hit. Overall, I mean, I can't say anything bad about it. I mean, seeing Samuel L. Jackson was awesome. Serena Williams crip walking to the song about her ex was pretty funny too. On top of that, but I mean, I'm not the hugest Kendrick Lamar fan. I probably knew 1 or 2 songs, not including They Not Like Us. But other than that, I have no complaints about it. I mean, compared to when they had the Super Bowl in L.A. and, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, 50 Cent, all those guys. That
And
was pretty
Kendrick.
awesome. But yeah, Kendrick was there too.
Yep.
Yeah, but on top of that, I have no complaints. Like, I can't tell you if it was good or bad, mostly because I was trying to, chase my kids around at that
Fair
point,
enough,
and also
yeah.
trying to make dinner at the same time. So, I mean, I was listening, but I wasn't, attentively listening. So,
Right. Well, I listened to Kendrick. I listened to the guy that he was ragging on. Now, the thing is, Audrey, which is Drake, but
yep.
I was kind of, and I agree with you because you only have so much time to put that all together and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But and then, he's doing the teasing with Not Like Us and, things like that. And there's these Easter
That
eggs
was
that
pretty
he's
good.
talking.
I'll give him that on that one. That was a good
Right.
one.
Like he was kind of teasing it, which is, a smart way to go about it. But the one thing that I feel like with this whole feud and everything like that, and just kind of seeing how, there's some people that were hating on it and people that were like, oh my God, it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. No, it wasn't the greatest thing you ever seen. Let's be honest. But I will say, I'm going to be kind of one of those people, but I was kind of disappointed. And it wasn't because it's like, this is, we all knew he was going to do a lot, Not Like Us and everything like that, how he went about it and X, Y, and Z. We all knew that was happening, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, let's see. The thing is like, play your hits that you have. He's got, and again, the new album came out, which a lot of those songs I do like and whatnot, but there were some that I feel like he was missing out on. Humble. They had Humble. They had DNA. Element, I feel like, is one that could get the people going as well from his Damn album. There's just so many things that I felt like he could have done. Now, getting to the Not Like Us thing, let's first get to the Serena thing. She did the Crip Walk and she got all in trouble with that. But listen, if you're trying to take shots at your ex and everything like that, why do you even care? Honestly, you go out there, you have a husband, you have a kid. Why do you care about your ex-boyfriend? First of all, the husband or whatever, I don't even know who his name is. Who the hell is this guy? He's the one that was taking shots at him. And it's like Drake didn't even say anything, And I just think it was a little petty of her to do that and whatnot. So I thought that was a little dumb, and it's just like, you don't need to do that, and it's stupid in my opinion with that. But the other thing, the Not Like Us thing, and again, people are gonna blow it, but there were reports, and I don't know if it's true, if it's not true, there was some audience noise that was piped in during that as well. So there's some controversy now. So there's some things happening and whatnot. But I will say overall, I was kind of disappointed. I will say I was kind of disappointed. I was hoping there'd be some songs, especially that I liked through there. But I just felt like a lot of this was just kind of a smear campaign against Drake. And it's like, you know what? You've been talking about it since, was it May until now? And it's like you want to get after him and whatnot. And it's like, look, it's over. You can claim yourself the winner, whatever. It's fine. Who cares? We just want to hear, your hits and everything like that. And he did so. But, yeah, a little disappointed, I will say. And, again, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of stuff you need to pack in with that 15 minutes. So, Jared says, just found out Cooper DeJean is from Odebolt. Is it Odebolt or Odebolt? I don't know.
I don't know. I heard
Iowa.
him talking about it earlier today, and I can't remember. But
yeah, close enough. And then Cooper DeJean is only 25 minutes away from where Jared's at. Guess he's my new favorite player. Fair enough. I like that. He's a young guy. He got a pick six in the Super Bowl.
On his birthday, man.
On his B-Day. And Saquon's birthday, winning the Super Bowl. How about that? Lucas agrees with you, Voldy. It's a lot to put into a small show, so we're all in agreement. The story I read is that he owns most of the songs he played there, and his hits are owned by his previous label. Yeah. Oh, okay.
So that's why.
He made a ton of more money than he would have if he played his hits. Well, there you go. I guess that makes a little bit more sense. from that. But I don't know. I feel like you could, I don't know, weave your way and figure it out. Anyway. But yeah, I liked Usher's last year way more than what.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, so anyway, so that was Super Bowl recap, talking about that. So we'll kind of keep this short since, you're going to be talking about it for Virtues. But the Minnesota Timberwolves are now owned by, not officially yet, but, you got to go through a couple hoops before they're able to, get the team. But the arbitration, A-Rod, marclore have taken the Wolves. They are ready to roll as the owners of the Minnesota Timberwolves. So can't believe I'm doing claps for A-Rod. Obviously, I've been a big I wasn't a fan of A-Rod, the player, but the fact that he got the Wolves from glentaylor, who, again, I think just can't give up his precious baby of the Minnesota Timberwolves. A lot of people were thinking that Glenn might win this one. He's disappointing in the ruling, yada, yada, yada. A-Rod and Laurie are happy about it. They have the money. It is what it is. But, the owners, they have to approve it at some point. Not sure when that is, but they have enough. They say they have enough, so let's see where this goes. So they will be the new owners of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Voldy, your quick thoughts on that alone. We'll get into more depth with your what they got to do as owners when they officially get the team. So what are your thoughts on this whole deal?
I'm glad we finally have resolution to this with the arbitration that has taken place. Of course, the, now getting that majority stock from the likes of glentaylor is good to see. I just wish it would have happened a couple months sooner, because previous conversations that we've had, even with Alex Zappa on the show, saying, will this, arbitration and the transition take place before the end of the calendar year, would have actually been right. But glad to see we'll have it before the end of this basketball season for the Timberwolves and for, of course, for the NBA on top of it. I'm just glad to see this finally come to an end after the, it feels like it hasn't been that long, but it's been a few years now at this point with, everything that's kind of gone back and forth with, the money coming in, money not coming out, when will glentaylor sell, timelines being met and extensions taking place on top of it. I'm just happy this is finally, at a point now where the transition will start to take place even more so.
What's interesting, and this is kind of what they've done kind of as their owners when Glenn was like, oh yeah, we're going to give it over to you. I mean, they got Conley. They went and, made moves and whatnot. Hell, on the business side, and again, I don't know if we mentioned this last week or not, but the Wolves were almost getting a deal done for Kevin Durant. It almost happened before the deadline, which is crazy in itself. I wish it would have gotten done, but it is what it is. What's interesting is that it doesn't mean that they won't be able to. I mean, it seems like his days are numbered in Phoenix, so it doesn't mean that they, could maybe make a play for him in the after this season. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know.
But
we'll see.
This is something that is exciting for Wolves fans, because this is something that, they've been asking for. We all have been asking for, because, Glenn, and again, Voldy, I sent you that graphic from, I believe it was Score North and everything with the Wolves. And Glenn's track record as owner of the Timberwolves, not good at all. I mean, if you add the links to it, which is fine, but I feel like Cheryl Reeve kind of carried the load on that one. It kind of shows that Glenn just doesn't know what he's doing. And KG made it known as well. More on that in a second. But I'm very happy that this is kind of all done. It seems like they have the money. They're good to go with that. And then all we got to wait on is the NBA and the owners to approve it. I think they will. and kind of go from there. Now, there's been some questions, and I want to ask you this real quick, and then we'll go to virtues. But there's been some speculation that they really haven't officially. We've all asked, like, oh, they're not going to move the team and everything like that. But you still have Seattle and what was the other? There was another one, and I can't think of it right now. Vegas. Yeah, Vegas, I think was the other one that are sitting out there. And they haven't really. They've said, like, oh, it's, they're going to, stay in Minnesota and everything. That's the goal. But, like, if money takes them elsewhere and things like that, do you think that they're going to stay true to their word about keeping the Timberwolves here in Minnesota? What do you think, Voldy?
I mean, I would certainly like to hope so, especially with all of the effort that they put into getting control of this franchise in the years that they have spent, their time in Minnesota. Of course, A-Rod did have a place here, spent time with his family here in Minnesota. I would certainly hope that they would take that into strong consideration before, packing up shop and heading out west. Most likely it would be either Vegas or Seattle, but I would feel more comfortable if they did say, of course, we'll talk about it more with virtues coming up, but having, I feel like, because there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that'll go into it, I think that they will keep the franchise here.
Just saying, A-Rod has lied before, and
Yes,
the
I
thing is,
know.
we got to be very wary about that too. Just saying. And again, I'm glad that they have it. Just stay true to your word. So, with that being said, let's head on over to the Temple of Wisdom for virtues. We're going to talk more about this. Voldy's going to give his thoughts on what they need to do as owners, what they can do as the Tate joins us tonight, which is fantastic. Perfect timing for virtues and the Tater to hang out as well with us. So, let's head to the Temple of Wisdom for Voldy's virtues.
He has emerged from the Temple of Wisdom. Gather round for Voldy's virtues.
All right, we are in the Temple of Wisdom, so Voldy, Tate, enlighten us with your knowledge.
Of course, with the conversation that we were just previously having about marclore and Alexrodriguez winning their arbitration case against Glentaylor for majority control of the Minnesota Timberwolves after they have met their guidelines in acquiring that majority stake from Glentaylor, then Glentaylor pushing back, saying he may not want to sell the team or give that controlling interest, extensions taking place, money not being there. Now it's there. It's sitting in the bank account. Now just got to transfer it over. Now we have finally reached a point where the wheels are in motion for said transition for Laurie and A-Rod to become the controlling interests and owners of the Timberwolves. Well, again, Taylor will hopefully be packing his bags out of town, hopefully in the very near future. But with all of that being said, there are a few things that maybe have questions for the Minnesota Timberwolves fan base and for Minnesota sports as a whole. And there are a few things that maybe could help Laurie and A-Rod win over said fans that maybe have a few questions on top of it. Of course, the big thing that we've been really talking about and hampering with the last few years, and of course, somebody that could have been involved in the ownership group for the Timberwolves, Kevin Garnett. The first thing that marclore and A-Rod can do to win over Timberwolves fans, immediately retire Kevin Garnett's number 21. Now, this has something that can work not only for the benefit of Kevin Garnett, not only for the Timberwolves itself, but even for the extended fan base of not only the NBA, but of the Timberwolves and past players. Now, it's something that's been long overdue with the tension, we'll say, between Glentaylor and Kevin Garnett, promises of when he returns to get him a minor stake in the team, then that being rescinded. Mending the fence that is the big ticket will surely reignite the passion for the Timberwolves, fans that attend the Target Center, and even previous players that have spent time with the Timberwolves, either playing with KG before, during, and or after that time, that have heard the rumblings of when KG ruled the Target Center back in the day, will certainly come back. Those previous players would at least encourage them a little bit more to say, hey, look, if Kevin says it's good to go, maybe we should pop our head in and see how some of these young guys are doing here, and hopefully talk positive about their time in Minnesota, which sadly there hasn't been a whole lot in the last, well, except for the last couple seasons. Before that, there were some tough years with the Timberwolves overall. Now, of course, retiring Kevin Garnett's number 21 would finally put a stamp on his career. Of course, his number being retired by the Boston Celtics, where he won a championship, and put a great shining of a light on the golden years of Timberwolves basketball back in the early 2000s. Maybe we finally need to put up a banner as well for Flip Saunders, God rest his soul, for his time as head coach the first go around, and of course the second go around before he sadly passed away. Now, another thing that we could address here with the new ownership is that if we've seen anything for the Timberwolves and all Minnesota sports teams for too long, Minnesota sports and the Timberwolves have really sat on their hands on the sidelines and watched some of those big names go elsewhere without even getting a sniff of what getting a potential top free agent could be. Now, investing in the team by being active in free agency is certainly a way to get into the good graces of the fan base. Now, of course, there would be a time to, this would be the time to go after and say that you will no longer be, unfortunately, the shit stain on the underpants of the association that is the National Basketball Association. The Timberwolves, again, even after the last couple of years, have not had a really good track record of making wise and smart decisions in free agency, in trades, getting guys to help, bolster the team or even build the team for the future. Sure, they've gotten a few guys out of the draft, but after that, nothing really on top of it to support said stud players in building into a roster that can compete not only for the playoffs, but for a title on top of it. So definitely being ones to put your name out there a little bit more. I think for Laura and A-Rod, they need to make it a priority that going after the big guys to build around Ant would certainly drive the narrative that they aren't just going to be looking to, add Timberwolves ownership to their extended resumes as they already have. And something that we lightly addressed here previously, but one thing that definitely needs to be for certain, a guarantee on paper, on social media, whatever outlet you choose to do. There needs to be a guarantee that you will not move the Minnesota Timberwolves or the franchise itself. That is believed, this is what I believe to be the most crucial on what other franchises that have been moved previously. Of course, Seattle to Oklahoma City being one of the big ones previously. Charlotte to New Orleans, and of course Charlotte getting a basketball team back as well. That needs to be addressed, because after what we've seen with new ownership coming in, they play around for a couple years and they say, no, we're going to move the team to somewhere that is more suitable for their needs based off of their ideas with this new ownership. We've seen it most recently with, of course, the purchase of the Phoenix Coyotes, now moving to Utah as they are now the Hockeys with the Utah Hockey Club. Now, we've seen the chatter and, of course, the rumors that could quite possibly be Marclore and A-Rod moving the team to Seattle or even Vegas that have been dying for franchises, especially Seattle since they lost their Supersonics well over, I think we're looking at almost 20 years ago now at this point. And I'm in agreement. Yeah. I certainly do agree. Seattle needs a basketball team. Vegas, definitely burgeoning in the right direction. They've got a hockey team. They've got a football team. They're soon going to have a baseball team. Why not throw basketball? I mean, the summer league has been quite successful. USA Basketball holds their activities there, pre-Olympics on top of it. But I'm in agreement that those cities do need teams, but not at the expense of the Timberwolves. We all know I'm not the basketball mind here of this program. We've got people to talk about that. But I feel if you move the Timberwolves, not really much else is going to come good out of it, and just going to burn and really set things out not in the right direction for them. Though I feel like the best thing for the two of them that they can do now is to issue a statement once, of course, full ownership is officially claimed to them by declaring that under their watch and ownership that the Timberwolves will not be moving. Of course, you're never going to get a guarantee out of anybody. If we've seen it in politics, we've seen it in business, this is probably not going to be a guarantee of any kind from them. But there is just way too much at stake. Of course, the first thing I always throw out when it comes to potentially moving the team is, well, Target Center is still under lease with the Timberwolves, I believe, for another 7 or 8 years, might be 10.
That's about right. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you break that lease, that's not going to be very cost effective on top of it. All the money that they've invested into the Target Center in the last 5-10 years with the major remodels that they've done. Of course, when the Lynx were winning championships, they had to play over at the barn. I think they even had to play a game or two at the XL Energy Center, from what I remember during the regular season. There's just way too much at stake for any potential of the team, and the backlash that would be at an astronomical level if we've seen anything in the scourge that has been the last 30 years for when the North Stars moved out of town to Dallas and what happened with Northern Green and the North Stars previously. For Lori and for A-Rod, it would be their best interest, once they do get full control and ownership of the squad, to say, we are committed to Minnesota, we are committed to this franchise, we are committed to building this team, and we are committed to you, the fans. So without all of that taken into account, I'm sure we'd get a lot more positive things that we've seen from them than we've seen out of Glenn Taylor the last 5-10 years, who's just been there to cash in and not really do all that much. But I feel with this new ownership group, not only be a breath of fresh air for the Timberwolves, but could certainly be something that they can build off of after that Western Conference Finals appearance that they had last season. With these three things that we can look at for the future of this franchise, Matt, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to throw out there that Lori and A-Rod can do to win over fans. But I feel like these are three big things that can be quickly addressed right off the bat.
I think that was perfect. Honestly, I think those are the three big things that any Wolves fan would want from the ownership. Now, and just to clarify too, Norm Green, you gotta, whenever you have that name, you gotta throw booze.
Yep.
Have you seen that video, that YouTube video of these guys just completely shitting on Norm Green? It is the funniest thing.
I haven't.
Oh man, I'll have to send it to you. But anyway, if there was anything else to add, I agree with you. I think going after a big fish, Kevin Durant, in the offseason or something like that.
Exactly.
Like, I think that's what's going to help. And then if you go out and show, like, listen, to the players, to the coaches, Finchie, we believe in what you guys are doing. What do you need us to do in order to bring Minnesota a championship? Now, here's another question, though. And, I'm not too familiar of how that works. You have the Timberwolves, but then you also have the Lynx as well.
Yes.
So if the Wolves would move, and I asked this of the Zoners as well because I'm not well-versed in what, does that mean the Lynx will have to move if the Wolves move? Is that, or is that a joint operation, or can the Lynx say, no, we want to stay and everything like that? I know it's not a nightmare that we want to think about, right?
I feel like it would be a situation where they'd probably have to sell the Lynx. Because I feel like, if they move to Seattle, let's say the Timberwolves move to Seattle or Vegas.
Sure.
Last time I checked, Seattle and Vegas already got WNBA franchises. Pretty good franchises that we've seen in the last handful of years. I feel like it would probably be better if they would sell the Lynx to another group, so at least the Lynx would still be around. But then again, at this point, nothing really makes sense if we talk about the Timberwolves moving to Seattle or Vegas.
And again, I know this is the hockey state and everything like that, but let me tell you, I mean, there are a lot of basketball people here too. I mean, not saying, and again, it's state of hockey and everything like that. It'll always be that way. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But professional sports team, everyone leans towards the Vikings, right? I mean, but for instance, if you lose the Timberwolves to Seattle, Vegas, whatever, there's going to be a lot of upset people. And I think A-Rod doesn't want that. Laurie wouldn't want that or anything like that. But, again, they need to make continuous upgrades to the Target Center. I mean, it's looking better. It's looked a lot better since,
Right.
as the years have went on. But I still think there needs to be more adjustments to be made at the Target Center. I think they will address that. So I think that would win over some fans. But the big one that you brought up, Voldy, is the KG. I mean,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The fact that Glenn and Garnett weren't on the same page, and Glenn is, again, you have to take him as he comes. I mean, as he is. And he's just a guy that's going to, goes about his way of doing things. It's like, well, that's not how I do things. And KG said it best. Does he even know basketball at all? Like, he just, and when he bought that's when he bought the team. Obviously, I'm sure he's picked up a few things now. But the issue is you have to get the guy his jersey retired at the Target Center as soon as possible, because the Celtics have already done it. And again, there's no disrespect, but if the Celtics are already doing it because of your beef with the player that literally birthed the Minnesota Timberwolves basketball, him and Flip, and you can't be on the same page, I mean, that's awful. And people hate Glenn for that. And he should be ashamed of himself for not patching that up with KG. So, I'm with you, Voldy. I like the list. I probably say the same thing. Just don't move the franchise. Yeah. That's the best thing to really say here in this whole thing too. I mean,
big thing that I put there with obviously retiring KG's number. KG, I mean, obviously you get a following with him. You put him in you're in his good graces. People are going to follow. Obviously, all his ex-teammates, old coaches are going to show up, and those guys are going to probably come around more often, besides, for the big events and everything, if they even do celebrate things like that for the Timberwolves, even under Glenn Taylor's watch. But I feel as if you mend that fence and you put that out, Stephon Marbury, Wally Zerbiak,
yes.
I mean, all those guys. Those are the only guys I can really think of. I'm sure you can name off a few more guys than I could. But those guys are going to come around a lot more, and they're going to say, it's great to be back. It's great that new ownership is willing to put us out there a little bit more and celebrate us compared to, the other guy. But at least put that out there a little bit more, and this could be the thing that breaks the dam and opens up a lot of good things for the Timberwolves. Because if you get that support behind you, a lot of good things could come out of it.
I agree. I think that's well put. So as the weeks go on, we will keep in tune with what's going on with the Wolves, and I'm sure once it's official, then we can kind of see what they do as their first actions as owners of the Timberwolves. So apparently Glenn's still going to get his courtside seats and everything like that. So you know what? You don't have to do anything. Just you don't need to, take over and all that stuff. You can just sit on the sideline, watch the game. That's all you got to do. So, all right, that'll do it for Voldy's Virtues. Temple of Wisdom was fantastic. Well done. So let's move on to ARA. The Twins signing a 2022 All-Star, and he's from no, I'm just kidding. Maybe he is. I don't know. Maybe he is. I don't know. We'll talk about that to start things off. And then the Four Nations face-off underway. Sweden, Finland, the Canadians, the USA. We got all that to talk about. The face-off will be underway. And kellenmoore hired by the Aints as head coach. Talk about that. Rodgers not going back to the New York Jets. And no, he is not going to be coming to the Vikings, so don't even think about that. We'll briefly talk about that. And then Ohio State adds Matt Patricia as D coordinator. So Ohio State's getting some heavy hitters. So we'll talk about that as well. So let's get things going with some observed or approved.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, it is time for Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, Tate, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Well, of course, with the Super Bowl wrapping up, pitchers and catchers reporting to their spring training facilities started this week, and the Minnesota Twins have reached a deal on a one-year contract with former All-Star first baseman Ty France, the 2022 All-Star, formerly of the Seattle Mariners and Cincinnati Reds. Agreed to that one-year deal to help quite possibly in the mix that could be for a position that has been a bit of a misnomer for the Twins for the last couple seasons. Of course, Ty France has played 3 full seasons with the Mariners at first base, had some decent numbers the last couple of years, led by, of course, in 2022, where he had 20 home runs, 83 RBIs in 140 games, but really kind of sporadic in his playing time over the last couple of seasons. Of course, the Twins did lose Gold Glove winner in 2024, Carlos Santana, back to the Cleveland Guardians for it feels like his 19th stint with the Cleveland franchise, where Jose Miranda and Edouard Julien could be in the mix for that first base position this season. Of course, the Twins did also invite first baseman Mike Ford as a non-roster invitee to spring training. Now you throw Ty France into the mix, of course, with the names that I have thrown out there for the Twins and possible first base candidates. Is it absurd or approved? Will Ty France be able to play a significant role for the Twins this season if he should make the squad?
Well, that's a great question. It's hard to say, especially when it's involving the Twins. We've had some duds from who they've signed guys past their prime or had an injury, things like that. But to me, I think they need to add another first baseman because, they need one for sure. Carlos Santana not coming back, which kind of sucks. Going back to the Guardians, he was actually pretty good for us. And the questions about Miranda, Julian, and everything like that. And he's only 30 years old, which is which is kind of, it isn't one of those, he was good a couple years ago, but he's not good now. It's worth the money to go out and get a guy that has been fairly good. That's for sure, being with the Mariners, and then not wanting to go to AAA with the Reds and everything like that. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to factor in. Do I think he'll make an impact? I hope so. I think what we want is to see him get to that 2022 All-Star status again, right? Mm-hmm. So he could be playing for a contract, but if things start going bad, this could be total bust. Let's hope it's not a. Remember Logan Morrison, the
dude. I loved Lomo. It was great. I loved Lomo with the Twins. Number 99, baby. 99.
But wasn't he hitting 90 or like 100 or something like that?
Yeah. Again, classic case of the Twins signing guys that were great. 5 years ago.
5 years ago, right?
Lomo was a social media darling. He was viral before that was even a thing.
Well, there you go.
I loved Lomo. One of the big regrets that I have is never getting a Lomo Twins jersey. I mean, number 99, Logan Morrison. Oh, my God.
I bet eBay's got something.
Thank you for bringing that back into my life. Oh, that
Glad I was able to make your day there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say, but you know what? Screw it. I'm going to give my stamp of approval just because I think he's a little bit younger, and I still think, there's a chance that he can still be effective. I mean, why not? No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Why not?
Right.
So, all right, Voldy, Tate, what do you got?
I definitely like the move. Again, depth has really been a thing that the Twins have needed at first base over the last couple of years. Of course, Carlos Santana getting the majority of the time there. Miranda has had a good amount of reps over at first base, but naturally he is that a corner infielder, primarily seeing a lot of time over at third base, but him kind of struggling last season going into, of course, after a great year that he had 2 years ago. And Julian, of course, a second baseman, now moving him over to first simply for the fact that they just need bodies over at that spot. Really speaks to how the Twins have just kind of been filling a vacant need over at first base, but having a guy with experience is definitely something that's good. I mean, he's been in the league, made his debut back in 2019, then ended up getting traded to the Mariners in 2020. So he's still pretty fresh. Of course, with it being now he's 30, but has been in the league for, 5 years. We'll give him that at the most. Definitely needs, a little bit more, could use a little bit more help. The Twins are over that first base position. Of course, Mike Ford getting thrown into the mix too. We'll see what comes of that with his invitation as a non-roster guy. Could see if he could make his way to the 40-man roster with spring training here getting started very soon. We'll certainly hope that it does work out. I'm going to give my stamp of approval as well for Ty France, just based off of, what the Twins need over at first base.
So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping that he can do something for us. So that's what we got going. Let's go to the next one, Voldy.
Well, with the NHL now on a 12-day hiatus for the debut of the Four Nations Face-Off, running actually starting tonight. I believe puck drop for game number 1 is underway. Canada, Finland, Sweden, and the good old US of A, filling their rosters with NHL players, will be running through, of course, Montreal and through Boston for the next 8 days. So that will include, of course, a number of games and formats with points being awarded for wins, losses, and even games in overtime and shootout for a winner-take-all for the championship, which will be set to take place on February 20th. Of course, the first game, like I said, taking place here actually puck drop right now. Actually, Canada versus Sweden. Of course, Philip Gustafsson, wild goaltender in between the pipes for the Swedes with a handful of Minnesota Wild players. Got Voldy and a Faber for Team USA. Gustafsson, like I mentioned, for Sweden, along with Joel Eriksson Ek. And there was one other guy. You mentioned it before the start of the show, Matt. But either way, a great amount of mix of guys here for
Brodin?
the stack. Yep, Jonas Brodin. Thank you for
did I
that.
say that? Okay.
Yep, I believe you did. With all those guys in the mix there for their respective countries. There are a lot of good things that could come out of this. Of course, it was also announced before tonight's show that, believe it or not, the World Cup of Hockey will be making its triumphant return in 2028. With the World Cup and the Olympics running 2 years separately for the duration of that taking place. Of course, with the Four Nations face-off and this new format to take place with the NHL in their mid-season tournament, what do you think wins the Four Nations face-off in its debut out of these 4 squads?
Oh, man, there's a lot of really good teams on here because I've been going through it, and Matthews, Voldy for USA, Jack Hughes, and you got Brock Faber obviously here on the US team. There's just, I don't know. I keep looking at the US and I keep getting brought over to it now. Again, it's competition, and I have no hate towards this country at all. But when it comes to hockey, I kind of do. Let's make sure that Canada does not get the gold medal because they're so damn good, and I hate it that they're so damn good with Crosby and then McDavid, Makar, Cirelli, Jarvis, McKinnon. I mean, it's like, damn, man, why can't we have nice things. You have the old guy in Drew Doughty as well. So it's going to be hard for teams to, take down the juggernaut that is Canada. But out of the 4 teams, I wouldn't sleep on Sweden either because, Leo Carlson, Arvidsson, and Forsberg on that team as well. I feel like they're going to be a factor. Lucas Raymond, got to watch out for him too. He's very good. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give it – I'll give it to the US of A. I think Matthews and those guys are going to get it done. Brodin's going to be – or not Brodin, I'm sorry. Brock Faber is going to get it done as well as defenseman and whatnot. So I'm going to go US of A. And Voldy, I'm probably going to turn it on right as we end the show here. And the Wolves are tied up with the Bucks right now. No Giannis and no Damian Lillard tonight. So Wolves are got to get this done. But anyway, I got US of A. Voldy, what do you got?
I see this whole the whole lineups are definitely very, very interesting for all 4 nations. But I look at one team here specifically, and Team USA has got a deep roster. I mean, they've got some of the best defensemen in the world right now. Of course, we're not even talking about Brock Faber, but McAvoy, very smart. Jake Sanderson, who just got, picked up in replacement for one of the Hughes boys. He is an up-and-coming guy, University of North Dakota product, by the way. He's very up-and-coming in his career. I mean, you've got the thump, you got the scoring touch here. You've got both Kachuk boys that aren't afraid to mix it up, but also put it in the back of the net, mixing it up with old man Brock Nelson on that line. That is a scary combination. You got Voldy, Connor, and Eichel there. I mean, a lot of these I'm just seeing listed alphabetically, but with you got Austin Matthews, who I have to keep reminding myself is American, even though he plays for a Canadian team. He's team captain for Team USA. That'll be very interesting with him being a guy that isn't an overly vocal guy, but definitely leads by example. But Team USA's got the best goaltender in the world right now, Connor Hellebuck out of UMass Lowell, by the way. I knew a guy that actually played with Connor back in college at UMass Lowell for the Riverhawks, believe it or not. And boy, is he quite something on top of it. But another, weirdly deep team is, of course, Team Canada with the mix of guys that they have. I mean, they've got some of the older talent, of course. You've got, of course, Crosby. You've got McKinnon. You've got the scoring touch there with McDavid. Marchand's an older fella as well. But then you've got some of these up-and-coming guys, too. I mean, you've got Cale Makar in there. You've got, there's so many guys that you see that are some role guys. Sorelli, Sam Bennett is not afraid to mix it up too, but definitely a team you definitely don't want to sleep on. But I don't see how Team USA doesn't walk through this one. It's going to be USA-Canada for the final in Boston, Thursday, February 20th for the championship from TD Garden Arena. And it's going to be another classic Team USA-Canada matchup. The only downside was Sweden and Finland. Sweden's definitely a dark horse in this one, just with the mix of guys that they have. Obviously, they've got skill, they've got speed too, but and then Finland you throw in there too. Finland is just completely banged up. They've got a lot of guys hurt, limping into this one, so I don't think we'll see the full best out of Finland. But they've definitely got some guys that'll certainly compete too. But it's definitely Team USA all the way for sure.
Yeah, it makes more sense. Who's an assistant captain for the Finns?
Who's that?
Mikael Granlund. Good old Mikael. I miss that guy.
Hey, he just got traded to Dallas, believe it or not, too.
Yeah, that's
we'll
right.
More
That's right.
him. Yeah.
That is right. I'll never forget that goal he had against the I think it was the Avs where they
Avalanche,
only won 1-0. Oh, so sweet. So
OT.
we will, we'll keep an eye on everything in regards to the 4-nation face-off. So looking forward to it. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, shortly after winning a Super Bowl in New Orleans, offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, Kellen Moore, won't have to journey very far to his next job, as he will be the new head coach for the New Orleans Saints, as the team announced here as of yesterday, just 2 days after Moore and the Eagles won the Super Bowl in the Superdome on top of it. Of course, the organization had been speaking with Kellen Moore, of course, through the interview process as the playoffs went along. They had being announced officially as of Tuesday that Kellen Moore will be getting his first head coaching position as an offensive mind the last couple of years. Of course, this year he was Eagles offensive coordinator after previously being with the Dallas Cowboys as offensive coordinator. He was in the mix there for the Dallas Cowboys head coaching job, but ultimately decided to head towards the NFC South as opposed to staying in the NFC East. Now, the track record that Moore has had as a player, then turned coach, and now as a head coach, is it absurd or approved? Will the Saints be competitive in the NFC South with Kellen Moore as a first-time head coach?
I mean, they have a lot of cap issues. They finally traded Lattimore this past year. Derek Carr is a shell of himself and everything like that. That defense is getting older. But again, when you have an offensive mind as opposed to a defensive mind, what he had with Dennis Allen, I think this will make them competitive under the right offensive scheme that he wants to run. Obviously, with the Eagles, he had to adjust a little bit because, Saquon was kind of their guy, and he was able to do so with running the ball and trying to get the ball to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, yada, yada, yada. But this solidifies that they will be competitive. What moves... It's going to be interesting to see what moves they make, because I never really know with Kellen Moore because he was OC for the Cowboys. Then he was OC for the Chargers, and he moves over to Philadelphia, and they were able to get a lot of success there, obviously. So, yes, I will say they'll be competitive. I don't think they're going to dominate the NFC South. Because I think the Panthers are slowly starting to kind of gain a little bit of steam now, and Bryce Young played a lot better than he did at the beginning of the season. The Buccaneers are a team you always have to look out for, especially Baker and that offense, and now that they'll be healthy and whatnot. So Falcons with Penix, probably not Kirko. So, yeah, I think they'll be competitive, so I'll give it my stamp of approval. The question is will they dominate the division? Probably not. I still think that the NFC South are starting to take care of things a little bit more now. So, Voldy, what do you think?
There is no way you can reimagine, in my mind, Kellen Moore being anything more than the QB out of Boise State, left-handed quarterback who'd never buckle his left chin strap on his helmet. That will never shake my mind ever. When I hear Kellen Moore, that's the first thing I think of, with the blue helmet, the blue jerseys of Boise State on that Smurf turf. He has really turned himself into a formidable coach. I mean, you look at the numbers, his offenses have ranked 5th since he really became an offensive coordinator back in 2019. Points per game and yards per game, while his quarterbacks have done fairly well. They've posted the 5th best quarterback rating since 2019, and then that's really when his coaching duties really extended. Of course, we talked about his time in Dallas and also with the Chargers and now with the Eagles. So he knows how to at least get the best out of his quarterbacks and offenses because he's done it himself. He played some time in the NFL with the Lions, with the Cowboys. He has been not afraid to shy away from it with his time. It's very interesting to see how it'll translate to now embracing everything, not just the offensive side, but now working towards the defensive side as well, special teams, and now being a full head coach, understanding everything. And what coaches will come with him is now the next thing too. Who is he going to surround himself with in order to be, the best head coach that he can be possible? Will he still be an offensive play caller too? I would certainly imagine that he would, just based off of a level of comfortability for him being a play caller and at least working with the quarterbacks that he has done previously. I mean, maybe this will revitalize Derek Carr's career. I mean, I would certainly like to see it. I've always been a fan of Derek Carr since his days in college, and of course, those early years in Oakland previously before Vegas on top of it. And I always thought that, you know, he got kind of a bad rap just based off of where he ended up and the glimpses of greatness that we saw out of him. Now, what do they do to really, shake things up and move things around? I think they will be competitive in the NFC South. You know, we'll see what we get out of a rebuild once again with Carolina. What do the Bucks do after the season that they've had? What do the Falcons do too, with a little bit of a late resurgence that they had? I feel like the NFC South will definitely be a very strong division to watch coming into next season, because of the fact that there's a lot of potentiality for the 4 teams that you could make a strong case to say, hey, they may not win the division, but they will definitely be in the running for maybe a wild card spot for sure, based off of what we saw last year and what they could build out for this year. But as a head coach, I feel like Kellen Moore and the Saints, will definitely be competitive out of the NFC South for sure.
It's a lot of up and coming teams, which will be interesting. So hopefully they can be one of them. So all right, from one quarterback to another, Voldy.
Well, it looks like that the time for Aaron Rodgers and Gang Green in New York will be coming to an end after a conversation and meeting between the likes of Aaron Rodgers and the new staff for the New York Jets, new general manager Darren Moji and also head coach Aaron Glenn. Looks like that conversation did not bear fruit, as it looks like that the Aaron Rodgers will be becoming a free agent after 2 seasons in New York. If you really want to say 2 seasons, more like 1 full season and 31 seconds in game number 1 of the year prior. Now, of course, with all that being said, coming after a year where he really turned things on in the second half of the season for the New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers back out on the free agent market with a few things still yet to be determined in dead money. His contract that he is supposed to be guaranteed coming up. Very interesting to see how things could play out for Aaron Rodgers. And one thing that continues to be thrown out of, we've seen a former Green Bay Packer quarterbacks that have gone to play in the New York area, in New Jersey, and for the Jets. Could the prophecy be fulfilled? Is it absurd or approved, Matt? Will Aaron Rodgers fulfill said prophecy and sign with the Minnesota Vikings for 2025?
Since we have a child present, I will not be saying this, but I will be saying this quite loud. Absolutely freaking not. Absolutely not. If he calls Kevin O'Connell, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, or anything like that, the one thing that you got to do is you say hello, and Rodgers be like, hey, you guys interested? And the first thing you do, you hang up the phone, put it down. That is what you do. This is not a hard thing to put together. This past year, obviously, he was a shell of himself. You saw him, how he was against the Vikings. He was absolutely terrible. He can get injured easily if you don't have a good enough offensive line and whatnot. The prophecy, I don't believe in. And to be honest, I think Brett looked better than him than he is right now. Yes, Brett broke down and everything like that, but he looked like a shell of himself, even when he was trying to bring over Devontae and everything like that. I mean, it was just an abject failure. Granted, Favre's time was, but this whole prophecy and seeing like, well, he can learn from McCarthy and everything. The guy's a cancer. He's a cancer. You can't trust him. He is a guy that is going to go to the media every chance he gets. He's going to give his thoughts. He's going to take shots at people within the organization. It doesn't matter. I do not want that man setting foot in Minnesota at all, only if it's for another team. But here's my advice to Aaron Rodgers. And again, he probably doesn't give a crap. It's time to hang it up. It's time to hang it up. And if you know what's good for you, stay the hell away from Minnesota. I don't care where else you play. Stay the hell away from Minnesota. So, yes, I think it's absurd. He will. I don't think he is going to sign with the Vikings. I don't think it's even an option at this point. I think you go with JJ. If you find a way to bring back Darnold, fine. I don't want him near the Minnesota Vikings or Eagan, TCO Performance Center, just literally down the road from me. Hell no. So, Voldy, what do you think?
I mean, I definitely don't want to see it happen, and you definitely threw it out best. The guy is definitely a cancer, not only just in the locker room. I mean, just for I feel bad for the PR people and the media people that are for the Jets that have to deal with and answer all the questions related to Aaron Rodgers, just of all the shenanigans that comes along with him. Is he a bad player? Certainly not. You just wish that with the personality that he has, that would translate a little bit more to how it performs out on the field. Of course, now him being well over the 40 mark on top of it, that doesn't help him when it comes to possibly looking at a strong free agency for him. But we'll see. I mean, if he does say, I'm going to give it another year, or I'm going to be putting out my services to other teams, be interested to see where he could land. There are a few teams that do need a little bit of veteran help, or maybe he could go in and compete for a job and maybe be out the young buck that's kind of taking things over. But with Aaron Rodgers, the same thing. It's a package deal. Very well could see, you could definitely see Davante Adams make his way to wherever Aaron goes. I mean, we saw it here with New York in the tail end of the season when Davante Adams got let go by the Raiders and then they got picked up by the Jets. That bared a little bit of fruit in a few different areas. Now it just feels bad for some of the young guys on the Jets here, especially that young defense that they've got, some of the young playmakers on offense. Now they're back to square one yet again with a possible new quarterback that they'd be throwing in, but it'd be very interesting to see how that plays out for them. I really don't want to see it. I think it's absurd. I don't think they'll be fulfilling the prophecy. The Vikings have their own quarterback problems right now, but at least they have a good problem because of the fact that they have J.J. McCarthy and quite possibly looking into maybe, hopefully, I shouldn't even say hopefully, maybe bringing back Sam Darnold. So I'm going to say it's absurd with Aaron Rodgers, but what could he do now? Where could he go, honestly? Where could he go? He's got his 500 career touchdowns. What else and where else could he go? Yeah.
I don't even know at this point. Tennessee? I don't know. I mean.
Him and Shadur?
God, that would be something. Oh, man.
Talk about a media circus.
Yeesh.
If I'm the social media guy there, it'd be like, I quit.
I quit. I ain't doing this. The one thing that I think we need to factor in is that I don't think he wants to come here either. I think there's just, I mean, it's like, well, you know, your rival for X amount of years, whatever. No, he doesn't want to be here. We don't want him here. He will be booed if he is a Minnesota Viking, unless all of a sudden he magically brings us to the Super Bowl and they win. But I doubt that would ever happen, and it's not going to. So. But you know who really wants it to happen? Those damn national sports media people. They're like, oh, it's the perfect fit. He can McCarthy can learn under him.
Use quarterback. Vegas. What about Las Vegas?
Yeah, exactly. You want the glitz, the glam? Go to Vegas.
Him and Pete Carroll. Ooh, that'd be good.
That'd be interesting.
Maybe a reunion for Davante.
Take your swing. Take your swing. There you go. We'll see. All right, last one, Voldy.
Well, it's not too often you see the defending national champions in college football pick up a good piece in coaching, but Ohio State is finalizing a deal to make veteran NFL coach defensively and former head coach Matt Patricia as the new defensive coordinator. Patricia's been out and about here in recent weeks and months. That will bring a position for him. Of course, he's been on social media, a lot of different podcasts as of late, but Matt Patricia now will be taking the likes of that defensive coordinator position after the said defensive coordinator moved on to a different job on top of it. But it looks like that will be a role for him to help bolster. Of course, we've seen in former NFL coaches make their trips back to the likes of college ball as well. After, yes, Jim Knowles was the defensive coordinator for them, who left to become the defensive coordinator for Penn State. Of course, Patricia, veteran defensive play caller from his time in New England. Of course, he was head coach in Detroit for that whole debacle of his 3 seasons there that led to the Dan Campbell era on top of it. But Matt Patricia has been there has been a defensive and offensive coach for a number of years, and 3 Super Bowl wins for him on top of it as an offensive assistant back in 2004, 2 times as defensive coordinator, where he was a main factor for the rebuild of that defense for the New England Patriots in his time. But after seeing the recent trend of NFL coaches heading back to college with the seismic change of college football in recent years, is it absurd or approved? Will we see Ohio State's defense improve even more from last season under Matt Patricia?
Well, what's interesting, too, is that Chip Kelly was the OC at Ohio State. Then he goes to Las Vegas Raiders, which is interesting in itself, just to throw that tidbit in there. But it seems like Ryan Day's bringing in some guys that, know what they're doing. And, I don't want to throw Patricia under the bus here, but some guys are just made to be just coordinators and not head coaches. I think there was a lot of lost hope with the Detroit Lions when Patricia was there. I think the guys didn't really like how he went about his stuff as a head coach, but adding him as a head coach for Ohio State, unfortunately, it had to be Ohio State, but, it is what it is. They were number 1 in total defense, scoring defense this past year and whatnot. So then you add a guy that knows defense and knows, how to win and everything like that. I mean, you're just adding more ammunition to next season. So, it's got my stamp of approval. Ryan Day's going out there. A lot of teams were saying, "Oh, he can't get it done against against these big teams. He can't get it done, get to the national championship." Well, look what he just did. So, it's got my stamp of approval. I think this is a good hire for the Buckeyes. So, Voldy, what do you think?
I think it's definitely very interesting because we've seen a lot of these, former NFL head coaches and coordinators that have really taken a step back, and not even really a step back, a transitionary move from the likes of pro ball into college ball. But what we've seen now, of course, with the increase of NIL and players moving back left and right from team to team over seasons, that college football has kind of turned almost into semi-professional, if you will. And you need coaches in there that can really navigate things. Of course, Matt Patricia, from his time learning under Bill Belichick, tried to copy that from New England into Detroit. It didn't work, but at least in learning and knowing from your mistakes to at least address things that maybe certain college head coaches don't have experience with, because you've seen a lot of head coaches now that have strictly been in the college ranks for years in their career, but maybe don't know how to work the intricacies of money, getting guys, at least when it comes to NIL, certain percentages, and kind of really navigating those waters, having those coaches around them that certainly know things, know how to, maneuver that and at least keep people, on the straight and narrow is certainly something that could be a benefit of. I'm not saying that Ryan Day doesn't know how to navigate that, but at least surrounding himself around the right guys could certainly help with that. But Matt Patricia, of course, he has been out for the last couple of years. I know that he was a consultant or something with Philadelphia last season for them, or even the season before that too, but didn't have a job this year, just kind of, is sitting back and working on a few things too. I think he was even working on a podcast and or book, I think, with Bill Belichick or something like that. I think of what I've heard and seen from some of the podcasts that he's been on recently. But I mean, it's very very interesting. I think it's got my stamp of approval, especially with the guys that they've got coming back. Caleb Downs transferring from Alabama last year, now national champion. Definitely going to be one of the top players in college football, as he's projected to be. But, Ohio State's never going to be short on, hot prospects when it comes to the defensive side or just in general. I think this could definitely be a smart move, and maybe look at mattpatricia looking at maybe getting another job somewhere down the road. But it's definitely got my stamp of approval for that.
All right. Well, that'll do it for ARA this week. Great job, as always, Voldy. We got some Shield shout-outs tonight. One of them, not as great. It still hurts because, well, factor in Minnesota, that whole deal, championships, X, Y, and Z. And then one involving a division championship. So let's get things going with a Shield shout-outs.
Shield shoutouts.
All right, Shield, who ya shouting out tonight?
Well, we head to the world of the NFL, of course, with the Philadelphia Eagles winning Super Bowl 59. That means former Minnesota Vikings Lewis Cine and tight end Nick Muse are a part of the championship for the Eagles, and thus adding their names to the long list of Minnesota pro athletes, former Minnesota pro athletes, winning a championship after leaving Minnesota. Of course, Lewis Cine was a first-round draft pick of the Minnesota Vikings. Nick Muse was let go by the Vikings on his birthday this year, adding more salt into the wound. But the wound will certainly heal with, of course, a Super Bowl ring and a Lombardi trophy to help exorcise those demons. So congratulations to them, sadly. And, of course, we have to send a Shield shout-out to our Granite City Lumberjacks. Of course, after the weekend where they split and a little bit of help from the rest of the division, they secured the regular season West Division Championship, another box ticked for the Lumberjacks after securing a playoff spot last weekend. Division championship this weekend, and of course, still the big goal in play of winning another Frazier Cup is on everybody's minds here in Granite City. So congratulations to them there on another small step forward. That's going to do it for Shield shoutouts this week.
Great Shield shoutouts. Congrats to the Lumberjacks on behalf of us. And, good for Lewis Cine and Nick Muse. I think Nick Muse shotgunned a beer with Saquon Barkley, if I'm not mistaken. So, hey, claps out for that. That was sweet.
Awesome.
So, it adds to the list, unfortunately, but it is what it is. Anyway, great job with Shield shoutouts. You guys know the deal. We've got merch. We've got sweatpants, shirts, stickers, hats, the whole kit and caboodle. We got the mugs.
Sure.
We got the winter caps and whatnot. It's still cold out there. Let us know if you'd like some of some cold gear. And obviously, we got stickers. Stickers as well. $2, $3, $2 for small ones, $3 for the big ones. You know the deal there. Thank you to National Fleet Graphic, Crown Rental, Tyler Knutson for that. Make sure you check out our guy, W2 Performance, Will Rattel, www.w2performance.com. And make sure you check out our guys, the Brotherly Ballers podcast with Tyler Hermann and Jack Vickers. It's a little bit of the off season now, but make sure you check out their stuff, subscribe, the whole deal. Make sure you check out TLS Performance, our guy, Troy Stoudemire Jr., former Gopher, and check out the Popcorn Bucket List with Nick Dahlhoff and Ryne, Rhino, Myhrberg, and Omni Entertainment. Big weekend for movies, things like that, so make sure you check those guys out and whatnot. So, one other thing for the zoners who have forgotten, but this is our we are celebrating our 5-year, and just wanted to throw this out there as well. It's getting done. It's almost there. Just keep with us. We will be getting a final soon for this logo and merch coming your way, so we'll be talking about that. Make sure you check that out. We are off next week, but We should be back the week after, and we will keep you up to date on everything Minnesota sports. Any big news, we'll send via tweet. Do you even call it a tweet on X anymore? Like,
I think it's a post.
Post. Oh, well. Yeah. Good job, Elon. But
I'm still living in the time where instead of hearting something, you'd star it, and those were favorites.
Yeah. What the hell?
I will never not call it a favorite because that is. I miss the days where it was a star and not a heart.
Right.
And it killed me when they changed it to hearts.
I know.
Brutal.
All these damn hearts everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we'll be back. More Minnesota sports, things like that. Keep on our socials media. Subscribe to our YouTube page if you'd like as well. We've got a lot of stuff happening on the socials media. So without further ado, as always, remember, folks, keep in the zone.
Holla.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.